welcome to this webinar on legacy modernization and transformation. I am joined today by Rick Truesdale from Infosys, and we're going to concentrate in this webinar on the level of service that can be delivered by a partnership between two companies such as Micro Focus and Infosys in supporting customers on their journey. My name is Stuart McGill from Micro Focus, and we're going to start by looking at how we power digital transformation and the services for bridging our customers from the applications and legacy that runs their company today to the supporting business processes that are going to drive their company tomorrow. So welcome, Rick. Perhaps you can get into this by talking about the number of different services that Infosys can bring to the table.
Thanks, Stuart, for asking me to join the conversation. So Infosys basically brings a number of different transformation kind of service offerings to the table. The world that we live in today is nowhere near as simple as it's ever been, especially because organizations now are kind of embracing the open systems and the alternative platforms to legacy systems. That doesn't mean they're looking to shut their mainframes down, but they're looking to kind of take advantage of the best platforms that are out there. So from the different angles of engagement that we come at it is from a more tactical perspective, where you might be looking at the rehosting, re-architecting, going through APIfication. The list can be kind of endless as far as what they may be looking for. And these are organizations that have already kind of planned out what they want to do, and they're looking for help on the execution side of it. That's historically where the likes of Infosys have really played. Now, that being said, because we're in a more transformative age where it's not one size fits all, if you will, we're getting more and more engaged today at the line of business as well as at the organizational level. And what that basically means is I need help kind of getting aligned with, strategically what we're trying to do. I need help with, putting a business case together and kind of justifying and laying out a path and roadmap forward to make that happen. I'm also going to need to be mindful of ongoing projects that are out there, where applications are going through regular change and are very more relevant to, keeping the lights on, if you will. So how can we mitigate risks of impeding those types of activities? So going through a migration is never a simple task in and of itself, but when you start looking at a transformation journey that holistically crosses all of those different plans of attack, you need to be more, particular about how you want to address that, and more specific about how you want to manage and control that. So the three different ways in which we engage are kind of organizationally at a strategic level, line of business at a strategic level, and then also tactically, as we've always done.
And isn't that because that many of the potential customers that are looking at transformation strategies and modernization as a whole are getting larger and larger in terms of the complexity of their application portfolio that they really want to discuss? So although a customer statement may be very simple, which is I want to move from mainframe, or I want to move from S400, or I want to move from this platform to the cloud, it can be now a very significant journey. And therefore, getting value throughout that process becomes pretty fundamental. Is value something that, you're also talking to your customers about all the way through this process?
Yeah, and even though front and center to some of these pain points might be that their legacy talent is retiring out, or that they're not agile enough, at the end of the day, in order to get any project like this going, regardless of where you engage on that spectrum, there has to be a business case of some kind. There has to be value, as you mentioned, kind of tied to it. It's the only way you can get these things underway. That's why early on, when I mentioned that even though we are pulled into a tactical conversation, in order to kind of get it off the ground, get funded organizationally, there has to be a business case behind it, and it has to be tied back into, what the organizational strategy is all about. So absolutely, they're much more complex. And they're much more rigorous as far as what gets involved across the spectrum. So that's very much part of the conversation.
And isn't it about trying to identify where there can be the equivalent of quick wins, so that value is delivered all the way through this process rather than just at the very end of it? Would you say that that's becoming more critical?
Sure, sure. Almost always when these projects are engaged, it's always like, okay, we need to have, something done by the end of this fiscal year or by the end of this, calendar quarter. And none of these are ever big bang. So there's always going to be kind of an iterative kind of programmatic structure in place. There's going to be an iterative program in place that's going to kind of make this transition over time. So you will have effectively those quick wins. You'll see that justification as you kind of move through the process.
So what do you think Infosys can bring to the table that customers are motivated by?
For those customers that are trying to optimize and transform their legacy systems into better and more optimized kind of platforms, whether that mean, maintaining what they have on their mainframes today, to moving to the cloud, to moving to cost packages, to rehosting to lower cost platforms. Infosys has, 30 plus years of experience in this space of doing modernization. And we can engage from a strategic perspective all the way through to a tactical deployment perspective in every front. The synergies between Micro Focus and Infosys have been nurtured over all those years, and the expertise can help them get there in a clean and in an optimized way.
So, and how is Micro Focus as a partner to work with? What, at a very simple level, do we do to make sure customers are successful?
So Stuart, to answer your question, I think there's a tremendous amount of trust and synergies between Micro Focus and Infosys, where we work by extension on each other. And the projects that we've engaged, the conversations we've engaged in, have proved very valuable in that respect.
And in the journey to hybrid IT, that's absolutely fundamental, isn't it? Even from the customer perspective, that they can trust that both companies are going to get to the end result. For the business result, for the financial result, and indeed for just simply helping customers do something transformational that they know they're going to see it at the end of the day. Don't you think that's true?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Stuart.
Thank you, Rick.